Hello, this is the Tradesight U.S. Stocks and Futures Market Preview for Thursday the 30th of November and Friday the 1st of December 2017. As usual, we don't typically do a market preview on Friday or for Friday, as we've already seen most of the week and everything we were looking at play out. Don't think this week will be much different, although we finally did get some signs of life in the market on Wednesday, and we'll review that here. Overall, it's interesting because the S&P, the broad market, the S&P 500, literally closed down less than a point. If you just looked at that and the Dow, which was up 100 because Goldman Sachs was up, you might think nothing was going on in the market. That is not the tale of the market today. So let's go through the major indices, and then we'll take a look at the intraday action and see what we have left for data coming out this week. So here's crude oil, 57.77 on the close, down a penny or two, not a big deal. Gold loses $14.90. The S&P cash index, like I said, literally made new highs, new all-time highs, and then closed down less than a point. So it makes it look like nothing's going on. And then you look at the Nasdaq 100, where we lost 111.19 points. That's a big move down. Biggest move down since June on a single day on the Nasdaq 100. SOX down 58.07. This is a bigger move. And look at that 13 sell signal we kept pointing out as the SOX rolls over. Right on target, but that's the biggest move on the SOX in quite a while. We've had such a boring market lately. The biotechs, interestingly, were actually up most of the day. They had a 13 buy signal the day before, so they held up. They actually closed down 2.54 by the end, but most of the day they were up a few points. And of course, with the VIX up 67 cents. So the real story here is, well, let's look at the trend, 0.60. That takes the 10-day moving average down to 1. Remember, when that 10-day moving average gets to 0.85, that's when you start to look at the sell signal in the broad market. And by the way, tomorrow, I believe, or is it the day after? It looks like the day after, that big number on the trend from 11 days ago, almost 1.6, that's going to drop off the moving average. So if we get anything under 1 tomorrow and then anything under 1 the next day and we lose that big 1.6, that's going to take that moving average down pretty quick. Nasdaq volume, and this is the other key, very huge, 2.4 billion shares on the Nasdaq. It's the biggest volume since triple expiration in September. So that is a big deal when you're about to see what really caused this. What's interesting is that the advanced decline ratio on the NASDAQ was plus 407. So there were more stocks up than down. On the New York, it was plus 8, meaning there's literally almost exactly the same number of stocks up as down. But here's where the real numbers come in. Google down almost 26 points. Apple down 3.59, which is a pretty big move for Apple. Amazon down 32. And remember, this had that 13 sell signal 2 days ago. So that's coming to roost. Coming home to roost. Netflix, which has been operating under a 13 sell signal for a while, down 11.03. Tesla down 10. TLT, the 20-year bond ETF, down 1.25. Goldman Sachs, strangely up 2.70. But remember, this one's still operating under that 13 sell signal from a month ago. We'll take a quick look at the Dow just because why not? Look at that. New highs on the Dow. Almost 24,000, but again, completely meaningless. It's 30 stocks. Goldman can carry it higher almost by itself if it wants to. What's interesting about these big moves down in these tech stocks is the time of year they're coming. Usually you do not see Amazon, Google, Apple, Netflix. They've been up all year, most of them. Almost any one of them is up significantly for the year, even if they're not up the last month or two, like Tesla here. If you look at Apple, where's it come from the year? It came from all the way back at 115 to the start of the year, and now it's at 170s, right? You look at Google, huge move up in Google this year. Same thing with the other ones. So typically when you get past the middle of November, these stocks are hanging near highs. Nobody wants to sell them because who wants to lock in the tax gain? And so you get this inflated December where they just kind of keep going up. There's no sellers out there. And instead, we got a pretty sharp sell-off start here. If it's a one-day blip, I don't know, we'll see. But with the volume we saw, it doesn't feel like it. And if this thing turns into a second and a third day and people start to panic out of these tech stocks this late in the year, that's very unusual. Very, very unusual. So we will see what happens. Let's take a look at the intraday action. Here's the 5-minute charts. And what's interesting is how boring the ES was. Little gap up, pushed higher, pulled back and filled the gap, tried to dip over lunch, and then literally stuck in a 3-point range for 4 hours plus. So no action there. Whereas on the NASDAQ, of course, big sell-off, small gap down, never filled, just pushed lower. It was actually 30 points lower than it closed at one point. So everything was on the NASDAQ side, and it is what it is. All right, in terms of economic data left to come out this week, let's take a look. We've got the weekly unemployment claims number core PCE price index and personal income and spending an hour before the bell on Thursday. We got the Chicago PMI at 9:45 on Thursday. That's 15 minutes in. And we got natty gas an hour in. Don't forget that. I mean, again, it's not a quarterly end, but it's a month end. Tomorrow's the last day of the month, so statements will print. But it feels like we might have some momentum here. Anyways, we'll see what happens. Friday, final manufacturing PMI at 9:45. ISM manufacturing PMI at 10, along with construction spending, and then total vehicle sales in the afternoon at some point in time to wrap up the week as we head into the last month of the year. When we look at the calendar here for December, we've got we got probably 2 strong weeks, and then maybe a couple more days in that week of the 18th, and then everybody starts to head out. And of course, the week between Christmas is on a Monday this year, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of that, probably not going to be the most interesting. Usually the volume drops way off. We'll talk about that more as we get closer to it. Charts as usual brought to you by eSignal. If you've not yet taken a trial of our services, feel free to do so. We will help you out for a couple weeks. Have a great trading Thursday and Friday.